Should you use a language to learn an app? Yes, that's what I want to say. Should you learn a language with an app? The answer is yes and no, depending on you. So in this video, I'm going to break down who can use an app to learn a language and when it would be better to not. But also make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to break down when you can use it as a main thing versus when you might want to think about it as a side supplement thing that has an added benefit that you might not have thought of before. So using an app is a really popular option for helping you learn a language, but it's not for everybody and is not for all stages of your language learning, depending on how you use it. Hey, I'm Coach Jen, trying to help you make language learning more fun. So let's get into it. So I'm going to describe a couple situations when it would be great to use an app to learn a language, or at least have it as a part of what you do. And I'll talk about when to do each. So for each of the situations, try to think, does this sound like me? Situation 1 is when you are short on time. You want to do something in the language. Maybe you feel like you don't have enough time to learn a language or do what you want to do. An app can really come in handy because you can learn little bits and pieces in bite-sized chunks. And these little bite-sized pieces can add up and help move you forward to make sure that you're still making progress in the language, even when you don't have a lot of time to work on it. And something is absolutely better than nothing. Situation number 2, you have an amazing language learning plan, but it just doesn't happen. For whatever reason in life, sometimes that happens. You have a good plan doesn't happen. So an app can be an easy, fun, lighthearted thing that either can start the ball rolling, can be something that makes it so you continue making progress in the language even when the plan doesn't go as planned. Number 3, if you like the gamification aspect, but wait a second, it's not even all about the game. Yes, that's one factor I would even count separately, but there's something else magical that happens when you use an app is you get to see your progress. And that's actually really big with something big and scary as learning a language that seems like this ginormous thing that you have to tackle. In an app, you can see, here's the lesson, here's the end of the tree. Whoa, one day I could be here. And that's not to be underestimated. If you think you're gonna run a race and there's no finish line, who's gonna be motivated to keep running? I mean, I'll cheer y'all on from the sidelines. I mean, go you, but I'm not signing up for that race. But when you can see the finish line, it helps motivate you to keep going. And yes, of course, you can keep learning things in a language for as long as you like. That's not the point. The point is you get to feel like you're making another step closer to your goal. And for motivation, that is something not to be underestimated. And related to this is keeping a streak. On the app, if you're doing it daily, it is something that can keep you moving forward. And again, it is a key factor into being successful is doing something in the language every day. So if having a streak or seeing your progress, which I feel like both are very powerful tools when it comes to especially a thing like learning a language, they can help keep moving you forward. And which app you use makes a difference, of course. But even more so is how do you use the app. So if you use an app the right way, it can double, if not quadruple, what you actually remember and are able to use. Hey, make sure you don't miss out because I'm doing this super special training on how to actually walk away learning a language from an app. And I know these apps work because the first time I tried to use an app to learn a language, I failed pretty miserably. That didn't work out so well. But then I tried again with all these tips that I want to give you, and I ended up becoming fluent, making a ton of friends. So let's just say it worked out way better the second time. So check the description box, join us. I'm happy to break down all those mistakes that most people make and how to hack learning a language from an app so you walk away knowing way more, remembering more, and using more. Because that's the point, right? To use the language. Another thing to watch out for, which is really common in language learning, but also in learning anything, is feeling lost and not knowing exactly what to do. If you feel like There's so much information out there. There are all these different things that you want to do, and it makes it so you're not doing anything. An app can really come in handy because it is straightforward. Often a well-designed app will build on itself. It is super clear if you're here in the lesson, and then there's the next lesson, and then there's the next lesson. It's way better to do something in the language instead of feel lost and stuck and not do anything. So an app can come in handy during those times. Hey, but I'm curious to know, what about you? How are you using an app, or which one are you using? Drop it in the comments below. Might help somebody else out. Another way an app can really come in handy is if you are a beginner in a language. If you're starting out, an app can be a great way to start building your base of phrases, of the most common things that you might want to know in a language in a fun, lighthearted, non-scary type way. So using an app to learn a language can be a great piece of the puzzle depending on you, your situation, how you use it. Check the description box for my super special tips. Make sure you don't miss out. But using an app is not for everybody. So let me go into when you shouldn't use an app to learn a language, and then I'll go into when to use it as one of your main things versus when you might want to consider it as a supplemental thing to do, even if these no's apply to you. First situation that you probably should not use an app is if you're already at a high intermediate or an advanced level. Now, even though there are some great apps out there, once you get to the higher language learning levels, you probably should be focusing most of your time and attention on real world content for native speakers, consuming a lot of content instead of having your main language learning thing be from an app. Situation number 2, when you probably should not be concentrating your efforts on using an app to learn a language is if you feel like you know a lot of the language, however, the part that you feel like you can use is way smaller. This is actually pretty common, and your comprehension level, no matter what, is always going to be higher than the ability that you have to use and speak the language. But if that gap is too wide and you can understand this, but only use this, then you should probably be focusing most of your time and attention on using the language that you already know instead of focusing on learning more material. Reason number 3, and super important not to use an app, is if you're bored with it. If you don't really find it fun or interesting, then maybe apps aren't for you. Now, it's totally normal to have an off day, a boring lesson, not be in the mood. That's totally fine. But if you feel like repeatedly it's just not catching your attention, then maybe an app or that app that you're using is not for you. So keep in mind, it might be the app itself, the one that you are using. Perhaps it's too easy. You don't feel like it's enough of a challenge, or doesn't have diverse activities for you to grow and learn in the way that you want to. So it could be time to explore different apps, or it could be time to explore different things in that language. So when might you want to use an app as your main thing versus when should you still consider using it as a supplementary thing? Or actually, it can come in handy in ways that you might not think about, and I know at least has helped me before in the past. Even if you don't use an app as your main language learning thing, I would encourage you to keep it as a backup activity. This is a key thing that I have in my language learning arsenal, which comes in handy during those days you don't have a lot of time, you just don't feel like studying. I mean, it's okay, it happens. Maybe you feel lost, maybe you have a great plan doesn't happen. And those days, it's really great to have a backup plan. And this can be the key factor between making progress in the language and not at all. So you don't want to fall off the horse. You want to keep going and do something, even if it's something small. And I found in the times in my life where it was kind of hard to fit in something language learning, apps came through in the clutch, kept me going forward, led me to fluency later on, so they really came in handy. And another thing that's magical that happens behind the curtains, here's the secret behind the curtain, is it's not always about the app. The app is the entry activity. Has that ever happened to you where you don't feel like doing something, but once you get started, the ball is rolling and you're feeling fine, right? So an app can be that thing. that even in those times that you feel like you can't do it, you're tired, don't have a lot of time, the app is the entry activity. It starts the ball rolling. And then after, you can A, say, boom, check, I did my language learning for the day, or B, I'm feeling good, let me keep going. And I can't even tell you how many times that has happened to me. And if you're interested in where to go from there and some of the other things that you can do, I made a video breaking down the steps of how to learn a language and put it into 3 easy categories with the bonus phase. That's my favorite part. So check that video out after this one. Make sure that you check out the super special training that I'm gonna do really soon to make sure that you stop making the mistakes that most people do and instead use these key hacks that I'm gonna break down for you guys so that you can walk away remembering more, learning more, speaking more. Because that's the point, right? Do you know somebody who's using an app to learn a language? Send them this video so they know it's right for them or how to use it, and stick around and subscribe for more tips on how to make learning a language more fun and how to get out in the world and speak. So happy language learning and catch you soon. Should you use a language to learn an app? Yes, that's what I want to say. Oh, so much better. Oh my God. I'm using this because that chair was so uncomfortable. Thank you, Jesus and Van Gogh.